Hey guys, I'm back. Today's conversation is going to be very conspiratorial, but I mean, if you tell me that some book is like forbidden or some lecture is secret, I've got to have it. I mean, you tell me not to do something, and I will be very tempted to explore what is behind the forbidden thing. So, therefore, we have to talk today about Peter Thiel's lectures about Antichrist. And if you don't know, essentially what happened is that this September and October, Peter Thiel offered a series of lectures. Apparently, there are 4 parts of the lectures about Antichrist. And it was somehow registration invitation only, so very limited access, no phones, no recording, no transcripts, no disclosure, but still, I mean, things have been leaked, and I tried to piece it together, and I also obviously follow Peter Thiel. I respect him. I feel like he is one of the people who are really ahead of the time very, very often. So I tried to put together all the information I learned about these lectures to kind of reverse engineer what he had to say and try to kind of understand what's the message. So, Antichrist. I know, right? But because Peter Thiel is a technologist and he is very ideological, and I believe that he does have a good vision and good ability to predict things, I don't feel we have to view this just as a crazy theory, because maybe there is something more tangible behind it. So yeah, that's what we're talking about. So anyway, I believe that these lectures have been structured around several concepts, and each of the concepts is like a part, or it has like a unique segment. So one of the core principles where he starts, and he also publicly spoke about it, so I don't think I'm like misrepresenting or sharing anything new, is that he believes that our politicians are creating this fear of pandemics, fear of nuclear technology, fear of AI, fear of Russian propaganda, fear of whatever. And they use this fear in order to consolidate their power and convince people to forgo some of the freedoms or rights that we usually have, so that the government can save us, right? So, and yeah, we have seen it with climate, we have seen it with lockdowns, we have seen it with a lot of things. And apparently in these lectures, Peter Thiel uses a lot of references to the original religious texts. I am not a religious person, so I'm not an expert, and I'm afraid of misquoting or misinterpreting that part. But apparently, he kind of tries to use the religious expectation or religious notion of the end of the world concept, where apparently everything goes bad and then Messiah comes back and saves everybody. So he links it back to this story. I'm just trying to stick with the story that I understand and I can relate to. So the first big part is he explains and he gives examples of how political powers cultivate our fears and inflate our fears in order to consolidate their powers. And then he gives a lot of examples of global institutions as kind of precursors for what would become an antichrist. So essentially, in the world of Peter Thiel, is that there is this fear of Armageddon, and this fear is not real. This fear is oftentimes amplified and inflated, and the concept, the notion, the figure of Antichrist is essentially these growing global institutions who And he names like ICC and UN and NATO and European companies, and also like SWIFT. So a lot of different institutions and agencies who impose rules, who can dictate what people and companies and businesses can do. And they also collect a lot of data about like us. So, and he gives plenty of examples about that. And he believes that because of the power of these global institutions, essentially the progress with science has stopped everywhere in the world of atoms, like transportation and physics and math and all the other things. And the only progress we have had is in the world of bits. And the reason why we have been like able to experience this progress in the world of bits is precisely because this was the area that wasn't regulated. And everywhere else we are essentially stagnant, which means that we are limited in terms of how quickly we can raise people out of poverty, or how quickly we can travel, or how quickly we can have access to new types of energy, cheaper energy, etc., etc. So again, he has talked a lot about this, and I believe we have plenty of examples. So again, this is nothing new. I believe this whole lecture series is almost like a consolidation of what Peter Thiel thinks about evolution in general. And I believe that then he moves on to something like really conspiratorial. He predicts that there would be a figure, like a real person, who would be very close to technology, who would be like around the age of Christ, so like mid-30s, like potentially early 40s. And this person would be a puppet, would be one of the puppets that have been created by, global organizations, have been groomed by global organizations. And this person would pose as somebody who could be a good leader, a good politician, but in fact he would be manipulated by others. And he literally believes that this is going to happen. This is where I was like, I don't know, like, man, I don't know. Maybe, right? He knows definitely more than I do, but like, it is so interesting in a sense that Peter Thiel isn't afraid to just go out and talk about his prediction of like Antichrist is coming. And I'm like, man. But anyway, so there are so many people who have questioned this theory, and like it's been discussed. These lectures have been cited by Washington Post and Politico and many other like publications. So me talking about this is probably not like crazy pants. Anyway, so he believes that there would be this politician, and this politician would be coming and talking about all the right things, but would have malicious intentions. And obviously, a lot of people asked him, like, apparently, like, are you talking about JD Vance, or are you talking about yourself? And apparently, no. So he believes that he knows the type that can emerge, but he doesn't know the actual person who would do all this damage. And then the last bit that he talks about in his lectures is that the good people would be the people who value privacy, who also value personal freedoms. And these people would be tempted to almost do what Ayn Rand described in her Atlas Atlas Shrugged, right? So the novel where essentially smart people, entrepreneurial people, people who value like fairness and liberal freedoms, they would leave the society. They would go live somewhere like in an isolated place, and they would create their own economy, their own society, their own governance, their own money. So it would be like a revolt of people who want to start a completely new type of governance, country, society, whatever you call it. So, and my point is like, wow. But then I took a step back, because if you don't know, Peter Thiel predicted so many things. He is almost like 10 years ahead of everybody else. He predicted Trump when everybody else said that like Trump could never be serious. He predicted like rise of China. He predicted so many things that it's like he's not a just blah 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 person. My point is that very often when he predicted something, it happened. But then I started questioning, because okay, so you're telling me, and like it's not my idea, but when I heard somebody, when somebody just expresses your concerns or your ideas in a way that you feel you are, or you haven't been able to, you're like, yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to say. So for me, it's Steve Dillon. Like, if you don't know, he's a comedian now, also a podcaster, and he's like, I don't remember the exact phrase, but he also commented on these lectures, and he's like, can we please have somebody else who is not a founder of Palantir talking about the coming of the Antichrist? Like, my point is, how do you reconcile somebody who has created the tool that allows to process a lot of data and aggregate data and sells data mostly, or like produces database solutions mostly for the military complex, and at the same time he's talking about freedoms and the fact that we have to be concerned and like afraid of the governmental controls and stuff. Like, I cannot like, I have a cognitive dissonance about that. So then I started specifically searching for interviews and explanations. How would you reconcile being in favor of Palantir? I understand that Peter Thiel doesn't necessarily run Palantir now. He's still like a founder and a shareholder there, but maybe he doesn't take day-to-day decisions. With somebody who says that globalism, consolidation of power, like global institutions and like dictatorships and tyranny is bad and we have to resist it. Like, I have to have my, I have to get my head around that. So this is what I spent some time trying to research and find the answers. And I think I have found an answer. It's not like one answer, it's like a concept. And that's what I want to talk to you about. So essentially, Peter Thiel believes that having a tool like a Palantir could be a solution to save us from the government when it is in the hands of the right people. So it almost feels like he viewed this tool as something that can be used against the government later. And essentially, what he says, first of all, is that technology is more efficient, and technology, especially like the data and digital technology, is developing faster than the government. And the government and bureaucracies, they have a tendency to expand, but they also have a tendency, the more they expand, they become dysfunctional. And the only way to fight like bureaucratic sclerosis is by creating systems that are restraining the bureaucracy. So essentially, the system is so smart that bureaucrats don't know what to do with it. So they are forced to make certain decisions and follow certain discipline that is like embedded in the tool, so to speak. And then, like, so another point that Peter Thiel makes, and I think it's connected, even though I wasn't able to find Peter Thiel giving interviews connecting the two, but he kind of expressed this idea separately, and I'm trying to connect it now. So the first idea is that if you create governance and decision-making tools, which Palantir is, that the tool will almost like override the intentions of the bureaucracy, because it would, like, they wouldn't know they're being manipulated. That's kind of interesting. And I know, like, it's crazy pants. And the second thing that he always said, and this is not, this is where Peter Thiel is like very much against Elon Musk, even though I understand they respect each other, and they just have a different view how people should compete and create businesses. And Elon is all about vertical integration and technological advancement. He feels that the way how you compete is you create a product that is technologically superior, and you control all the supply chain, and that's how you dominate the market, because essentially nobody else can do what you do, and nobody else can replicate what you do, and nobody else can sabotage what you do, because everything is under your control. And Peter Thiel always says that competition is exhausting. Competition is for idiots. Competition eats all the profits. So what you should do, and I think this is what he did with like Palantir, you have to create a product that becomes a monopoly. It could be a monopoly of one, and then you don't have to compete, because the concept is so unique, or the value proposition is so unique, that nobody even wants to do it, or nobody is able to do it. And I kind of believe that that's what he is trying to do with Palantir, and he believes that it could be a force for good, because right now we have a lot of data, and data is like, he views it as chaos, and chaos is almost like this nihilistic concept where if you don't control it, then there would be bad people who would try to control the situation and create tyranny out of that. And he believes that people who are good with technologies and kind of using it for good would be the like fighting for good force, the restrainer, who would potentially, direct our civilization into a new direction, which is like, I don't know about that. So my point is, if he's serious, and I don't know, again, I don't know if he is serious. And I see comments about Taleb and Anti-Fragile, like, seriously. My WhatsApp mantra, when I open my WhatsApp, I says, I think I'm becoming more anti-fragile today. So I agree that it's not a novelty, but what I'm trying to think. So I was talking to my daughter earlier today about this whole thing about Antichrist and Peter Thiel and like escaping the society and fighting the government. And I'm like, what if he's actually preparing some kind of escape island? I mean, not the Epstein type, but where like all the smart people will get together, develop technologies, organize themselves, have like a parallel currency, parallel structures. I don't know. So I'm really curious because, unlike Musk and definitely unlike Trump and many others, Peter Thiel is not the type who seeks celebrity status. He doesn't want to be the most popular boy in town, for sure. Like he's not that. So, but then he's very intentional and he's smart AF. So he must be doing these lectures for something. It is a foundation for something. And I don't know about that. But there are so many people. I mean, people are speculating about this. People are like, expanding this, and they're asking, somebody would say like, how can I up for the follow-up for the sequence? I don't know, but I'm really curious, guys, if you follow Peter Thiel, or if you just first heard about it and like you feel curious, what do you think it means? Is it just one off, or does it mean that something is about to happen that we don't yet understand about? Maybe not now, maybe in 5 years, in 10 years, but something is up. So anyway, so I'm really like curious what you are going to say about it, if you're interested about it at all. But this is what has kind of occupied my mind over the last few days. And right now, like, I feel like I've done my research. I learned as much as I could about like what's happening. So let's see what happens next. Anyway, thank you so very much for being here, for following me, for like appreciating what I have to say, and always like comments, ideas, or like questions are welcome. Let me know if you want me to talk about something else or talk me more about something I already covered. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend and see you here next week. Bye.